Is unforgiveness the generational cycle that needs to be broken in your life? Let's unpack it. I'm Stephanie Hill Nchege, licensed therapist, business mindset coach. And today we're going to get into unforgiveness and how it may be blocking you as a Christian businesswoman, not only in your personal life, but what if I told you it was blocking you in your business? Would you be willing to let it go? Would you be willing to start to assess and see if it's serving you well or if it's causing some problems that you hadn't even realized? To help us answer those questions, I want to begin with a little bit of a light-hearted story. All right. So here's the story. There was this older couple. They had been married for some maybe 50 something years, and they raised a family together. So early on, when they were raising their family, one day the husband, he became very irritated because he felt like his wife was spending too much money going to the market buying sugar. See, she loved to cook. And over the next 2 or 3 months, she had just been spending money on sugar, and he was just getting more and more irritated until one day he literally went outside, grabbed a saw, and cut their house in half. He boarded the open walls of both sides of the house, and he moved his half to another part of their land. Now, years later, his son, who grew up going back and forth between the two halves of the house, was raising his family. And everything was going well until the son started getting more and more irritated and angry at his wife because she had been spending too much money on shoes and purses. See, she couldn't help it. She just loved those red bottoms and she loved the matching accessories. And so over the next year, he just became increasingly irritated until one day he divided their house in half. He told her, "You can take the downstairs part and I'll take the upstairs part of the house." The son, he also had a son, which was the grandson of the first man. And this grandson found this amazing woman, but he refused to marry her. I mean, he loved her with his whole heart. And he even took her ring shopping. But he just couldn't bring himself to take the final step. His family just couldn't understand. What is wrong with you? Why will you not marry Amy? She's amazing. What is wrong? And then finally one day he explained. He said, "I remember the stories and I saw the house, how grandfather sawed the house in half when he became angry with grandmother over spending too much money on sugar. And I watched dad live in half of the house when he became angry with mom over buying too many purses and shoes." Well, see, remember I took Amy to look at the engagement rings? Well, when we were there, I realized Amy loves fine jewelry. And I knew that my day would come to divide the house over that jewelry. But the problem is, Amy's parents, they taught her to never do anything halfway. I just love that story. But although it's lighthearted, I want us to take it from a little bit more of a serious perspective, right? I want us to look at how that story of unforgiveness can be causing you to not have a whole life. See, they were cutting things in half and they living halfway, right? They weren't living a full life. And they didn't even realize it. And although it's a lighthearted story, what I want us to do is start to live a whole life. And the first thing that we're going to do to start helping us live a whole life is, as we're letting go of unforgiveness, in order for us to do that, step one we have to do is recognize if unforgiveness has been a generational cycle or not. And then we got to break it. See, in this story, the grandson, he feared repeating the family's pattern of unforgiveness. And sometimes there are things in our families that we think that's just how our family is. That's just how we live. We don't think a lot about it. We actually think it's normal. But we haven't realized that no, it's a cycle being perpetuated from one generation to the next generation. That cycle is shaping our decisions. That cycle is allowing some things to come in to your family lineage that you may not be aware of. Some unhealthy things like bitterness. Because when you have unforgiveness in your life, if you don't break it, if you don't break that cycle, if you don't get it out, eventually you're going to start hitting some hard rocks, some hard stones as you think you're putting up walls. But in order to put up those walls, see, you had to dig some ditches for those posts to go into to build that wall. And when you were building those ditches, when you were making those holes, there were some things happening to your soul. And that soul started having those holes in it. And inside of those holes is bitterness. Inside of those holes is resentment. Inside of their holes is just this whole complex force now that doesn't allow you to trust freely, doesn't allow you to connect fully. See, you're not living a whole life. Second thing that we see in this story, we have to learn to separate the person from the problem. In the story, each of the men allowed material issues, right? That was the sugar, the shoes, and the jewelry to create those relational walls. And as a Christian businesswoman, sometimes we can face those same kind of challenges. You know, it might be that someone puts a nasty comment on one of our posts when we're posting about our business. It might be that there was someone who didn't pay their invoice. And all of these things can start to creep in, and we start to feel a little, hey, some kind of way, and we're justified because they should have paid their invoice, and they should have, right? We feel like there's no need to be nasty. I'm building my business. Why are you coming for me? And then before we know it, a couple of things started to happen. We started to feel some kind of way about the person who posted, and now we're kind of stalking their pages. It happens. Before you know it, you are blocking people. It happens. And then what's happening? Your mindset is shaping little by little. And then when your son is coming to you or your daughter asking for advice about a situation, you find yourself saying things like, the heels, we got strong block game. Our blocking game is strong. This is what you need to do for them. The cycle is being perpetuated. Watch for the generational cycles. They will not only cause that resentment, unforgiveness, all that stuff to creep in. But what's happening is it blocks your growth. When you're not separating the person from the problem, it blocks your growth. You don't come up with strategies of how can I deal with that nasty post more effectively? How can I win that person over? Even if I don't win that person over, how can I respond in a manner that shows the other people who are on that post that I'm a light? Those are the growth areas that you miss when that block game is strong. When those mindsets of cut them off, build a wall, don't let them in, are being slowly passed along from one generation to the next. Number 3, we have to realize that if there is, after we identify there's a generational cycle, then we really got to start to look at, we have to break it, because forgiveness is too important of an investment in our future and in the next generation's future. See, even though this is just a lighthearted, made up story, there's so many lessons in this story. The grandson, he delayed marriage. The grandson in the story would not get married out of fear of where his relationship would end. And see, when you start to have unforgiveness, when you have watched your family operate in it, then what happens is you start to realize that not only was there some resentment going, not only was our block game strong, but perhaps there was a withholding of love. Perhaps there was a withholding of trust. The grandson couldn't make the final step of fully committing. He couldn't create the whole life in the story because he didn't see what it was like to have all chips in. We love, we trust, we forgive, and we keep going. He didn't learn that investment. And that can play in our businesses as well with opportunities, because our businesses are built on relationships. But if you can't trust in order to collaborate with other coaches, consultants, traditional business owners, how is your business going to grow? If you can't enter into the relationships and give love, because that's the kingdom way. When you're seeing a client, even if the client is difficult, Lord, help me to love them. Lord, even if they gave me a bad review, help me to keep loving and help me to keep opening my heart fully to the next client. So being able to forgive is an investment in our future. Now, as I close, I want to give you one little tip that I think will really help you if you're struggling with breaking that generational cycle of unforgiveness. I want you to write a letter. I really believe that writing is one of the ways that a tool that God uses to help us start to release things over to Him and let Him deal with it. So I want you to write a letter about some of the cycles. Maybe there's a story that you witnessed growing up and you didn't quite understand why mama or grandmama or daddy or somebody stopped being friends with someone that you used to call auntie or uncle. Or maybe it was a story of you didn't quite understand how your sibling even became estranged from the family. But I want you to get that story in your mind. And I want you to start writing about it and asking God to heal you and to reshape your perspective and to show you forgiveness, show you the generational cycle, how to break it, show you how to separate the person from the problem, and show you how forgiveness is an investment in your future for living a whole life. It's time to stop half living. Let forgiveness create a whole healthy life.